All right, the Art and Sports Podcast is back. It is Monday, January 15th, which you know what that means. We are coming to you from a live, long 3-day weekend. Shouts out to the presidents for allowing us President's Day weekend.
Shout out to President Martin Luther King Jr., whose day it currently is.
I don't know. When I went to go get coffee this morning, I was like, oh, happy President's Day to the guy at the counter. He's like, well, it's actually Martin Luther King Day. And I was like, oh, you think Martin Luther King can't be the president?
You don't think that he's more important than some of our presidents who are racist, by the way?
I just think 50 years later, it's like the guy can be president. Yeah. I don't know what you're trying to do there.
Put him on the money.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. You seem cool.
So today, really, it's President's Day in February, President's Month.
Stupid.
So stupid. Basketball is continuing to happen. So let's flash back to about a week ago, Wednesday. Wolves at Celtics. No Gobert, no Porzingis. Does that really cancel it out? I don't know. Almost, kinda. But it was a fun matchup nonetheless. Huge three by Drew Holiday after a missed clutch Tatum free throw, puts him up with a possession left, and Ant gets it to overtime, and the Celtics pull away in overtime, unfortunately. But very fun potential finals preview, maybe. I don't know. Very fun matchup.
That was the game where Tatum and Brown scored 80 combined, right?
Yeah.
That was crazy. That was actually. I've said this before. There are times with Jason Tatum where it's like Tatum is like he's like a top 10 guy, right? But he's not a top 5 guy. And if he had just never heard of Kobe Bryant, he would have the right mentality to actually be like a top 5 player. He was like 6 for 12 from 3 in this game, and it's like, Jesus, dude, if just do this, do this all the time.
Yeah. You would be the best of all time. It's 50%.
It'd be so easy. And I know this is just stupid just casual brain, but oh my God, dude, stop. Just make the game easy for yourself. I know that their best, defensive player wasn't on the floor that game, but good Lord.
Look, I know it happens generationally. That's why we got German Expressionism was World War I, the horrors. People weren't ready for that. We got modernism after World War II, and, we have a whole generation after 9/11 that sees America in a different light. And there's a whole generation of hoopers that were traumatized by Kobe's long twos and, his high post moves. And they were just like, oh, that's what you have to do. That is what you have to do to be a man in society.
It traumatized them, but they internalized it, and they think that they love it, despite the fact that it's holding them back.
It's deeply psychological. The other national game that night, I believe, were your Pelicans on national TV. You predicted a national TV embarrassment against the Warriors. You got the opposite. You got a nice little surprise there.
Yeah, the Pels over the last year and a half or 2 years, they tend to be complete babies on national TV. Anytime anybody pays attention to them, they just go out of their way to embarrass me. So I was like, yeah, man, this is the easiest pick of all time. Fade the Pels, Warriors money line. That game was insane. That game was over immediately. We were up by 45 points at one point. And it was one of those games where we ended up winning by 35 or something, and our highest scoring player was, I think it was Jonas, with only 21 points. It was a just everybody eats game. There was a ton of steals that went in our favor. The Warriors were playing super sloppy. And there are times when the Pels play well and then the focus is on the other team playing poorly, where I'm like, can't you give us any credit? You don't want to give the small market team any credit. You just want to talk about the big team. But no, the Warriors played absolutely terribly, and I completely understand why that was the focus.
I mean, I'm on board for the Warriors collapse right now. It's like they're slowly melting down in a way that, in the last month and a half, we've seen the Philadelphia Eagles do in the NFL, and, the fake team who's been just around enough to where it's we're a hop skipping away from a dynasty. We've been around for the last 5 years and just imploding, and then seeing the Warriors slowly flame out like this week after week is so fun. And Clay got booed basically off the floor, and he's like, it's not something I lose sleep over, which is lie of the year.
Those are the words of a man who is losing sleep every single night over what's going on. And I get it. If I was facing my own mortality, as a man, this is all he's ever known, is being one of the best basketball players that he's ever met in his entire. That's what how all these basketball players are. They grow up and they rule. They're awesome, and he's had his injuries, and now he's staring mortality down in the face. Like, this is the end. And so I'm not saying I would handle it very gracefully, but Mr. Thompson isn't either. The other very funny line from that night was some reporter asked him, do you need to make moves at the deadline in order to remain competitive? And he said, well, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same results. So what do you think? Which is like, oh boy.
That's not good. But the thing is, they are always trying to make a move of some sort, even if it's the small upgrade around the peripherals, So I don't know what that really means. Maybe it does mean, time to actually blow it up and just be done forever.
Yeah.
Which, hey, the whole league would love that, other than the people who are counting the money, the revenue shares and whatnot for viewership.
Yeah, so that was a wild performance. I did not expect that from the Pels, but it was great to see.
Moving on to Thursday, hey, the NBA Paris game, everyone's favorite tradition. It was weird because it's Cleveland, playing the Nets. Donovan Mitchell drops 45, but for some reason, everyone in Paris was walking around in Josh Giddey jerseys. I didn't really see that. I didn't really get the logic of that. But
I was looking it up, and they were playing that game in the Karl Malone Arena, which I don't think he has too many connections to Paris. That was very odd to me. I didn't get that.
Yeah, there's been like this weird kind of fan campaign to have a Karl Malone biopic in the French language starring Gerard Depardieu. And I hope it happens for the sake of art, but I really don't see it getting off the ground.
The script has been it's on the blacklist for many years. It's a very sensitive and touching depiction of Mr. Malone's life. So
Roman Polanski will be directing it as his final directorial effort.
Jesus.
But the main marquee matchup was supposed to be Celtics Bucks that night, right? And Boston just got their backs blown out in the first half, and second row Joe was like, no more. You guys are sitting. I'm throwing the white boys in.
Yeah, that I do feel a little bit for the Celtics on that, which is not a sentence that I want to say, but like. This on the schedulers, man, like you're giving these guys, this is, at the beginning of the season, this is going to be like a marquee matchup. It's Celtics Bucks, and you have them play on you have the national TV game on the second half of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
And then all of the guys suck. Like, wow, that's so crazy. Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah,
I don't know why
the
do
schedulers
this.
didn't know the Wolves would be like the second best team in the West at this point, but that's still just bad scheduling. The second night of a back-to-back on national TV is like, you got to figure that out.
Yeah, and they've done that a couple of times where I get that scheduling is crazy. I get that scheduling is really hard, but like you got to have your priorities in how you do the schedules. Like, I don't know. You can't chalk too much up, to this. That said, every team has, stupid schedule stuff throughout the season. And not many of them have the national TV broadcast cut away from the game in the third quarter because they're like, this shit sucks. Nobody wants to watch it. They ended up going back to it at some point because I think they were like, oh, dang, if we cut away, it's blacked out in some markets, so then people will have literally no way to watch the game at all. And the people need to see Sam Hauser, so...
Yeah, what did they end up cutting to? Was it Chicago or something?
Yeah, I think it was Chicago and
Chicago or the Raptors.
Oh wait, it was the Chicago. Wait, it was the Chicago game where Jerry Krause's widow got booed.
Oh yeah,
it was that
Jesus
game.
Christ, that was
that game that they lost.
Oh my God, that was Michael Jordan's like Triumph of the Will encore right there. His propaganda machine just like creating.
Not to get into that.
Just so ridiculous. Everyone's just gonna boo that poor old widow.
Dude, okay, all right. Sorry I totally forgot. This wasn't in the outline, but like,
I forgot about this too.
I totally forgot about that. Listen, man, I'm sure Jerry Krause was not a personally likable guy. Dude, if you look at, Doug said this, our mutual friend Doug said this in the chat, but if you look at his moves when he was the GM of the Chicago Bulls, he would be a god. He would be like Sam Presti to the 10th degree nowadays. People would be like worshiping this guy. He brought you, with the efforts of Michael Jordan, six titles. Like, that's more playoff game. He got you more titles than you have playoff wins since he hasn't been the GM. And you people have the gall to boo this poor woman. What are you doing?
I just don't get it at all.
Crazy. That was
like
crazy.
I'm never a guy to defend front office guys. Like, I'm not like the GM defender. That's not my place here, but it's ridiculous. I mean, you can't be thankful enough for that guy to assemble that roster throughout the 90s. I mean, even just, drafting Jordan in 85, hanging on to that as the main piece throughout the 90s, putting together the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport, because in the 60s, there's obviously Celtics versus Janitors matchups. And yeah, they're just like, well, we like our one guy who said he was mean. So
yeah. Sorry that Jerry Krause got word from ownership that they weren't going to pay for the team anymore. That was his decision. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, like you said, it was Michael Jordan's triumph of the will moment. Yeah, there's none of those people in that arena cared at all about Jerry Krause until The Last Dance, when Michael Jordan got to air out his dirty laundry against a man who was dead and couldn't defend himself.
At a time where also sports didn't exist and everyone had to just watch this stupid fucking sports documentary.
That was
the worst part. It was very entertaining. It's very entertaining.
Very entertaining.
I think I'm still giving it the seal of non-approval, though. Bad movie. But it's very entertaining. Very entertaining.
It's great slop. It was great slop, and it hit at exactly the right time. And then it made this poor woman cry in front of everybody. Awful.
The other, I wish I didn't have to say this, but the other Thursday game, the Bradley Beal-led Suns thump the pathetic Lakers, who, like, it's not even a tailspin. They're just in a stasis of losing. People aren't even, the Fire Darvin chats aren't even going off anymore. It's just like, well, they're going to lose again probably. They're playing a good team.
You are what your record says you are, and the Lakers are
below
just
500.
Okay, like, they're just okay. But hey, there's some talk going on now that, we said last week, maybe Zach LaVine. There's some more talk now. Hey, maybe DeJounte Murray.
Hey,
a guy to take the ball out of LeBron James's hand and play fake good defense.
Yeah,
let's go.
I mean, hey, I would gladly upgrade D'Angelo Russell to a guy who pretends to play defense. Pretending to play defense is so big for guys like LeBron as a teammate. Like, you could tell he's getting a little sick of it. D'Lo went for 39 in Utah in a loss.
Yeah.
That was fun. The next night.
I know. I have him on my. I have D'Lo on my fantasy basketball team. Trust me.
Oh, that's fun. I'm sure that's a whirlwind and a half. Yeah,
it's not terrible. I got him for like $1. We do an auction draft. I got him for like $1. It's for the value. It's fine.
Yeah. Friday, the Sixers, who were slumping without Embiid, finally get a get-right game over the Kings, who maybe their worst shooting luck of the season. I'd have to look into it, but that is just not what I'm used to seeing from them. Couldn't buy a bucket, so yeah, the Sixers win by 20. Pretty boring stuff, but I had to watch it for a second gig that I took, where I now pay close attention to every 76ers game.
God bless you.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Andy, we need you to pull. We need you to pull a clip of every Joel Embiid free throw for all the little piggies.
We need some real Paul Reed heart moments, The real game, though, was the Magic Heat total shorthanded game, which came down to the wire. And, Paolo hit a couple crazy clutch shot, but then, I don't know, just lets the ball whiff out of his hands. It was tragic to watch. He had I hate to say it, he had the Kobe moment cooking. He had these, two mid-range turnarounds from the same angle back to back to get them in contention, and then just whiffs it. So weird to see. You hate to see it.
I love Paolo. He rocks. He didn't deserve to lose that game, but he did, and it's unfortunately representative of how my Magic have been. Mm-hmm. They're 3-7 in their last 10.
Not good.
They're only 8th right now, which is pretty disappointing from where they had been only a few weeks ago and where I thought they would be.
They seem like they were locked into the top half.
I thought so.
I thought top half of the playoff standings.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I thought they would at least be the 6th seed. I mean, they could still right the ship. It wouldn't put it past them. They're
a little banged
Franz.
up. There's been some close games. Yeah,
they haven't
That's
had Franz.
huge.
Yeah, and he's great. So that'll be I don't know what the timeline is on his injury. I don't think it should be too much longer, but yeah, it's disappointing because I like them. They're cool. The Magic are cool, and I love Paolo. But I think Paolo's probably going to be an all-star if there's any justice in this world this season. But yeah, disappointing. The Heat get away with it again.
God. The thing is about the Magic, they were like one of my most watched teams for a while, and so this skid is just like a little disappointing, whatever. But they're still going to be in the postseason, and they're still going to be very feisty as long as they're healthy. And I'm looking forward to it. I think if anything, if they hit a little mid-season spurt, and then they have to like climb back a little, they'll come back hot into the postseason, and they'll pull off some sort of 3-6 or 7-2 nonsense, maybe.
Yeah,
who knows?
I don't think there's any danger of them falling out of the play-in picture because the 10th seed right now in the East is the Nets, and the Magic are 4.5 games ahead of them. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's any danger there, but it is just a little disappointing given how their hot start and how much I was loving them. So.
A lot of really boring fucking blowouts this week. Even the Spurs got in on it. Like, they beat the Hornets by 40, and I was like, what's even going on here? Those are just two bottom feeders beating up on each other. Utah beats up on Toronto, but then now Utah's not even a bottom feeder because the next day, Saturday, Utah beats my Lakers. And I'm going to delay the Lakers pessimism just a little longer because we did so much of it last week. Since December 13th, the Jazz are 14-3. Crazy. Just crazy. There's some bad teams in there that they beat, but they also beat the Nuggets, Bucks, Sixers, Mavs, Heat, and Knicks. All postseason teams. It's real.
This isn't a 76ers schedule, man. He's not. Lauri Markkanen is not Wizards Pistons man right now. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Have you looked up Markkanen's numbers recently? Like over the last 10 games, he's 23.2 points a game. He's 47.4% from the field. He's 40.5% from 3 on 8 a game. And he's 8.8 rebounds a game. I know it's like big volume, and he's killing it. And if you reduce that down to even just the last 5 games, he's like a 50-50-90 guy right now. Like, it's crazy how much of a heater he's on. And they've just been absolutely blitzing their way up the standings. They're 9th right now in the standings, completely, as Bill Simmons put it, crashing the party in the West. They're above the Rockets. They're above the Lakers. They're above the Warriors.
Well, they should be
Jazz
above the
only,
Rockets.
Yeah, but they're only a game behind the Suns for 8th right now.
That's crazy.
So this is like Danny Ainge could do whatever he wants there right now. Like, this is a true basketball sicko comment, but would you put it past Danny Ainge to be like, this is the best time to sell on these guys because we're hot and we can tell people that we're not trading unless they come correct with their packages. Do you get the Gobert deal for Lowry right now if you could do it from OKC? And again, this is the worst type of basketball analysis. I apologize to everybody listening, but it's a thought that I had given their GM. Would you put it past him?
No, I was going the other way. But you're totally right. It's a possibility. I was going the other way where it's like they're so hot that they might just run with it and be like, all right, well, instead of just selling on Clarkson and Sexton and whatever other assets they have around Markkanen, it's like, or maybe they flip those into a better guy. You combine those two guys into a better guy, or you just figure out some way to beef it up a little bit, get a couple more rotation guys. Who knows? I don't know. I think they could go either way. Ainge is smart enough to realize they're not a real team. Like, they're really hot right now, but you think about the top 4, 5 teams in the West, it's like, come on. You're not going to have any fun with them in the playoffs. So it's either make something that is going to solidify you for more than 20 games at a time, or, as you said, strategically sell high now while you're hot. 14-3, who knows? Maybe that's as good as you're going to look in the next 3 years, with this core.
Yeah. And who's actually been pretty good for them is Chris Dunn has not been bad. He's playing the 20-some minutes a game over their last stretch, and he's, providing decent stuff. He had a 13 assist game last week. Did you know that? 13
I did not know that.
From Chris Dunn. Yeah, against the Bucks.
Know that.
Yeah, for real. They're just kind of scrapping it together. It's like Chris Dunn and Simone Fontecchio are out there killing guys.
Well, if you want some more fun names, wait till you hear who Memphis is throwing out. Saturday.
My Lord.
Saturday was a truly sad display because on top of their long-term injuries, no Bane or Triple J. Is that becoming a long-term thing now, or is he just day-to-day for a while?
It was announced yesterday that he's going to miss 6 weeks.
Ooh, God. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's not good. The starting 5 in that game on Saturday was Tillman, Big Body Roddy, Luke Kennard, and then, so those are like those are the good Grizzlies right now. Then you have Vince Williams Jr. and Jacob Gilyard, your good old Memphis Grizzly, Jacob Gilyard, just gritting and grinding the way they've always done it. And, the Knicks didn't have Brunson, and that game was close. I didn't watch a minute of it. I watched some highlights after, but I was like, how am I supposed to watch a Brunson-less Knicks play this awful Grizzlies team right now?
Yeah.
There's football on, guys.
I was, a couple weeks ago, I was at the game where Ja came back and hit that game winner against the Pels. And I haven't watched a lot of Grizzlies this season just because there hasn't been much to watch. And they pull out guys like I watch a lot of basketball. I know a lot of players' names. That's one of the most important things about basketball. And I'm watching it, and they're playing Vince Williams Jr., and I'm like, I have never heard of this guy. And here's the crazy thing. He actually, I hate to hand it to him, was very good. He was good.
He was like the third best guy out there.
Yeah, and I hate to reach back a couple weeks, but the reason I bring it up is because he just got a guaranteed contract with I forget the exact number, a couple million guaranteed. So good for him. And I was listening to another podcast, the Fast Break Breakfast, which is a pretty good pod if you don't listen. And one of their hosts is a Grizzlies fan, and he said that Vince Williams Jr. is their modern day Tony Allen. So I don't know.
You never know. The grit and grind could rebuild.
People have cooled on people have correctly cooled on the oh my God, the Grizzlies are so good at drafting thing, because it turns out that being able to draft a bunch of ninth men is not particularly useful, but it looks like they did it again with Vince Williams Jr., and he's solid. Those lineups are absolutely terrible. I mean, Jaren Jackson's day to day at this point. So they always get one of the marquee MLK Day matchups because they're in Memphis, and it's going to be a miserable experience.
Yeah.
People. There's been since Ja came back, whenever it gets mentioned in the NBA media that Ja had a 25-game suspension. We don't need to get too deep into it, but people have said that was really harsh, for what he did, which wasn't even illegal. And I don't even think I disagree. 25 games was pretty harsh. But what I'm seeing now is that God disagrees. It was not harsh enough.
Exactly. We are witnessing God pushing his soldiers to their limits. This is like a perverse story of Job, where it's all right, if you're a Grizzlies fan, you're just going to have to go with this right now and just be punished. You're going to be so punished. And if you truly believe in the Grizzlies, in 5 years, maybe they'll reset in an interesting way again.
Yeah, God was like, 25 games isn't enough. I'm going to mess your shoulder up, and everybody around you is now going to die. Like it's a tough scene out there.
Yeah,
for
it's rough.
for Memphis. I've not been a Memphis Grizzlies lover in my time as an NBA fan, but even I am like, oh my God, can we give these guys a break?
I mean, I was there at the LeShannon game. I was there. It was about a year ago now.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I couldn't see because literally, I mean, luxury problem. My seats were too good, so all the tall people were blocking my view of the kerfuffle. But yeah, I just that might have been the beginning of the end. Who knows? It's a rough scene for Memphis sports fans, and I'm not going to say they deserve it, especially today of all days. No. But maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe their fans are really annoying.
Hey, can you 1 second? I just noticed my refrigerator is cracked open a little bit. I'm just gonna close
that's
that really
no good.
Quick. Sorry about that.
Got to seal it in.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Got to stay sealed. Sunday, while everyone on Earth was watching just a horrible football game, Sacramento and Milwaukee had an overtime thriller, including a Dame walk-off 3 from 32 feet. That was fucking crazy.
That was
bad
sick.
game for Dame, too. He had 20 before overtime and then 9 in overtime. Made it count,
Eddie, what did we talk about last week? What did I say? I said that Dame is dogging it at the start of these games so he could hit clutch shots and win NBA Clutch Player of the Year. He's doing it. I'm telling you.
He is going to have a fleet of Kia Souls, and then he's going to have like 10 Kia Sorrentos. He's going to have every model of Kia. He's going to make Blake Griffin look like a fucking scrub. I can see his plan for winning the Kia Clutch Player of the Year, and even though I can see all of the machinations, I can see him pulling the strings. It's working. Yeah,
because that shot was awesome.
That was so sick.
Can I say just the aesthetic quality of him putting the shot up and it going in like exactly at the same time as the buzzer going off is so sick. It's awesome.
Perfect. It's one of the few shots that like actually is better on a on the floor phone camera, because a lot of times people do that. It's like, oh, everything's just shaking, you can't see anything. But seeing whatever footage from people on their phones of that, like I just kept watching it over and over, every video I could find on Twitter.
Awesome.
It was fucking insane. It was so cool to see. Yeah.
Awesome.
Two of our friends were at that game, right? Jack and Sean were both there. Yeah.
Shouts out Jack and Sean.
Shouts out to our Midwest correspondents.
The other awesome thing that we got from that game was Mike Brown getting kicked out. One of the more intentional coach ejections I've ever seen. Like
Draymond level. Yeah.
Yeah, he knew he was getting kicked out. Like he was trying to go at the refs, and Malik Monk had to hold him back and was laughing and all that. And then after the game, we got a really, really great picture of him pulling out the laptop and pointing to the plays he was mad at. It was a lot like Pat Bev pulling the camera out and showing it to the refs.
A little more tact there, not mid-game.
Yeah.
That was more like, what's his name? Jim Garrison from JFK. He's dissecting the footage. He's letting people know that there's something rotten at the core of our institution here, and it's the way that they're refereeing defense.
Just that screenshot of Mike Brown pointing to the laptop. I'm like, man, that is relatable.
So good.
The head coaches, they're just like me.
I gotta say, I was a little hesitant, maybe it was 10 years ago or so when I first started seeing tablets and laptops on the sidelines. I was like, all right, I don't like seeing that on TV that much. And now there's so much physical comedy around them, whether it's MPJ in the playoffs last year, perched up on the scorer's table looking at the laptop. That was amazing. And then there was in the fucking Kansas City, the freezing game the other night. It was so good. Fucking McDaniel, clearly not built for it, was getting so frustrated trying to tap his fucking tablet with his gloves on, and then you see an assistant grab the stylus and hand it to him. No, use this, dummy.
It's very funny. It's
great.
It's been a few,
Great antics.
It's been a few years now, but whenever Tom Brady would just absolutely go crazy on the surface, it's on his surface. It's special. It's special.
All this talk makes me want to get a Microsoft Surface, man. Great product.
I'm recording on a Microsoft Surface as we speak.
Are you?
I can vouch for it.
That is beautiful to hear. I love to hear that. The other game yesterday, I was straight up just watching football during this one, though. Ant scores 33, Wolves past the surging Clippers. And, hey, I always love to see the Clippers get taken down a peg because they've been much discussed lately. Every basketball podcast there is, everyone's like, oh, the Clippers actually a title contender now? Well, we'll see about that, Clippers. We'll see what
Anthony Edwards has to say. Yeah. He's very cool.
Final note. The Marvin Bagley trade. Now, this is a little above my pay grade. This is just like so complicated, the financials, I don't even know where to begin. Is it the 2 seconds? Is it Marvin Bagley himself, those beautiful 10 points and 4 rebounds a game? Look, I guess we're just really thirsty for slop right now, right?
Like they trade for Mike Muscala and Danilo Gallinari. And like in a vacuum, I don't hate them next to Cade because the thing that is messing Cade up so much and making him look like terrible all the time is that the Pistons have absolutely no shooting at all, and that just makes Cade's life miserable. So if your plan to develop Cade is just to give him more space to operate and just getting more shooters, Mike Muscala is a capable 3-point shooter for his position, and Danilo Gallinari, despite being 1,000 years old and completely washed, he still can hit shots. So like, okay, getting those guys in there, all right, whatever. So if you just look at that, okay. But like, looking at the whole thing, the whole Marvin Bagley situation in Detroit is insane to me.
Yeah.
They gave up trade to get Bagley in the door. They gave up Trey Lyles, who is now a capable NBA player, of which the Pistons have like none. So they give up Trey Lyles and 2 seconds to get Marvin Bagley for the privilege of paying him $12.5 million a year, which is an insane amount of money for a player who isn't good. I'm usually of the opinion that if you're paying a guy like under $15 million a year, as long as they're not like the worst NBA player in the league, then it's whatever. Like, who cares with the cap? Here's the deal. Marvin Bagley is a terrible basketball player. So why are you giving him $12.5 million? Who were you? And for 3 years, if you wanted to do it for 1 year, okay, who cares? 3 years guaranteed at $12.5 million for a player that nobody wants. Who are you competing against? And then you have to give up 2 seconds to get off of him. And the stated reason for you doing this is to clear cap space for this summer? For who? You're the Pistons. Who are you going to get in free agent? There's not even going to be. Are you going to pay Tobias Harris? Bring him back home? Like, what's your plan? Do you think you think that you're going to be able to throw a bag at Pascal Siakam this offseason? Like, what is your plan? Just clearing cap space? Like, 4 second-round picks out the door. And I know they're like, whatever, second-round picks. But, like, with the way the new cap is, the way the new CBA works, you're going to have to hit on some of these second-round picks and have them be, like, okay. Yeah. And, by the way, I was listening to the Dunked On podcast a little bit earlier this morning because they, for all my complaints about Nate Duncan, them breaking down the cap implications of things, it's usually pretty good. Yeah. They were saying they don't actually even know yet what those second-rounders will be. They said they were conditional, but the details on that are not
like
clear
the protections and stuff aren't out publicly. Okay.
Who knows? And I think at one point they said they actually, for one of the years that it was being reported, they were like, I don't even think they have a second-round pick in that year, so who knows? But it's just like a baffling comedy of errors from Troy Weaver, and just like, and you're doing this, and now, like, given how they've played, I know I'm just going on this big thing, so I apologize, but like now you're gonna play, you got to clear minutes for Wiseman. Like, I'm sure that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna bring in guys who actually Cade will be able to look good next to, and I'm sure you're just gonna play the shitty players you already have who suck next to him instead. And like, it's just And for Washington, fine. Like, taking on some money in order to get second-round picks back, fine, whatever. Yeah, they are so at the beginnings of their rebuild. Like, loaning out their cap space to get actual assets, it's perfectly fine move. Like, who cares? But yeah, just like if I feel for the Pistons fans out there because they're on another like 9-game losing streak and Cade is hurt or whatever. Just oh my god.
And also, I gotta say, you want spacing around Cade, of course. That's the big thing. But like, when you're gonna space out the floor with Bogey, Muscala, and Gallinari, that's a really slow team for Cade to play with. Like, that's a very, very slow, old team for Cade to play with.
Those are some tired knees, man.
Yeah, you're going to have to sub those out for new white guys in a year and a half,
Oh, my God. And this is not relevant to the trade. Did you see that the inbounding mess up that they did last week? Oh, my, you got to look it up. It's Killian Hayes and somebody else. And this wasn't Killian's fault. I forget who he was inbounding it to. But Killian, he does the inbounds, passes it to a guy, and then that guy immediately steps out and passes the ball into Killian like he's inbounding it.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't, dude, it's a live ball. Like, and the coaching staff is just flipping out
of course.
On the sideline. It was one of the funnier inbounds mess ups that I've seen in a while. You're going to have to check that out. It was one of those things where like people were posting the video and it was so egregious how much of a mess up it was. I had to watch it a few times to like realize, oh my God, he just stepped out after he got the ball inbounded to him and didn't realize that the ball was alive. It was wild. Yeah. Hey, shout out to the Lions, man. Shouts out to the Lions. Big up Stan Campbell.
I mean, that was great. That was the one good
awesome.
football game of the weekend.
Yeah,
I want to go out, though, here today. We do have that giant MLK slate per usual, which I always thought that was so weird. It's like punitive. You don't let us watch basketball on election day, and all the players have to just like sit there. It's like they voted in the morning if they're voting at all. Who cares? But then it's like MLK Day. Yeah, you guys don't get the day off. You guys all have to play. It's so weird. But regardless, I know last week's episode was titled Draymond's Return, but he still has not played. Until tonight, he plays against the Grizzlies, a perfect place for Draymond to come back.
Beautiful.
Everyone's hurt, which, makes it a little less perfect, but who knows? Maybe Triple J will be out there and throw an elbow at him or something like that, because a full-strength Grizzlies team would actually be the most perfect Draymond return game. But for his sake, this is a nice, easy one. It'll be an easy win for them. And I don't know. Any predictions on his return tonight?
I think that he is going to go out of his way to make it fairly low key, Draymond is many things. He's not stupid. And I think that he's going to be his best behavior. Like, this is a nationally televised game, if I remember correctly. So he's gonna. I think he'll be. I don't think it'll be very notable, really, in any way, outside of the fact that it's Draymond's first game back. That'll be in a few games. Then when he forgets that he got in trouble.
There will be a serious interview tonight on top of his podcast from last week. Like, the podcast round 2 will essentially be like tonight at some point because it's a TNT game. So whether it's like on Inside during the late game or something like that, like there's got to be some kind of planned media hijinks for him, even if it's in a quote unquote respectful way. It's going to be like a serious thing.
He's going to do another one of those documentaries that he did, when he came back from hitting Jordan Poole. He's going to have another one of those, but it's going to have MLK themes as well. It's going to have the I Have a Dream speech behind it.
I was thinking about Martin Luther King in my goon cave in my my man cave for 3 days.
That's right.
I say less than 10 games. Well, I'd say less than 7 games before he gets a tech. Just like a tech alone.
Yeah.
I would say 7 games is like the max he'll go probably.
That sounds about right.
He's going to really try. He's going to really try for a little while, and then he's just going to become himself again, which is fine. Yeah. That's what we love.
He's going to get frustrated. He's going to get frustrated that they're losing, which I think they'll probably continue to do. They just,
I would be frustrated if my dynasty was collapsing in front of my eyes, too.
I would handle it with grace, actually.
Well, that's what makes us different men, Richard.
Yeah.
I guess that's going to do it for this week's Art and Sports podcast. Richard, thank you very much for joining me once again.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
When I get there, I go right to the weight room. So then I'll listen to all hip-hop when I'm in the weight room. Like DMX, crazy. Like, I've been on some DMX shit lately in the weight room. And then when I leave the weight room, I got to calm down. And that's when I'm listening to, like, more, like, old school jazz or R&B. Or I listen to a lot of like Beethoven and shit too.
Oh yeah, like classical
classical music.